California. First opened to guests in 1972, the Queen Mary still stands tall as a hotel, restaurant and museum to the many memories that are held within its walls.
They say that the Titanic was the ship of dreams, but this ship, the Queen Mary, this is the ship of ghosts. We're talking of a ship that has contained memories of so many people for nearly 70 years, contained within its metal cladding. We're talking of a ship that probably has more ghosts on it than any other ship in the world. And we're talking of the 6th most haunted property in the whole of the United States. From 1939, only 3 years after she was launched, she became a troop ship, conveying troops, both American, Canadian and British. And not only that, but she also took a great number of prisoners of war, some of them in very poor condition, and many of them, of course, died on this ship. This ship had approximately 55 deaths that we know of that are recorded, 16 crew members, 38 passengers, and nobody knows how many soldiers, airmen, prisoners of war also died on this ship. So we have a ship that is very, very haunted, to say the least.
Resting in Long Beach Harbor is the RMS Queen Mary, a retired ocean liner that sailed primarily on the North Atlantic Ocean from 1936 to 1967 for the Cunard Line. Built by John Brown and Company in Clydebank, Scotland, the Queen Mary was a British response to the superliners built by German and French companies in the late 1920s and early 1930s.
Her Majesty's advance for the great ship launching ceremony. First we hear King George.
As a sailor, I have deep pleasure in coming here today to watch the launching by the Queen of this great and beautiful ship. I am happy to name this ship the Queen Mary.
Down to the buoyant water slides the SS Queen Mary. The Queen, nearly ready for her royal progress across the North Atlantic shipping lanes. With a glinting of steel rivets, the Queen Mary in the Clyde River, Scotland. Her builders will soon turn her over to the Cunard Line for her maiden voyage. The interior furnishings are nearly complete, from the swimming pool to the illuminated chart. Instead of pins stuck daily on a map, An electric light will show the progress of the voyage. For oceanic majesty, the Queen of the Seas, and the medallion tells that she's named after Queen Mary.
For years, this grand ocean liner hosted the world's rich and famous across the Atlantic, including the likes of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, Greta Garbo, Clark Gable, David Niven, Mary Pickford, and Sir Winston Churchill. When World War II broke out in 1939, the Queen Mary was converted into a troopship, and carried Allied soldiers for the duration of the war. During that time, the Queen Mary was painted grey to make her more difficult to detect at sea. She was given the nickname the Grey Ghost. During her time at war, the ship's capacity was increased from 2,410 to 5,500. By the end of World War II, the ship had carried more than 800,000 troops, traveled more than 600,000 miles, and played a significant role in virtually every major Allied campaign during the war. By the late 1960s, ocean liners were falling out of fashion with the rise of air traffic between the continents. The Queen Mary made occasional luxury cruises before being sold to the city of Long Beach in 1967, where she was permanently docked. Her boilers were removed and she was rendered unable to move under her own power. She was converted into a hotel and museum. Following the Queen Mary's permanent docking in California, the ship was rumored to be haunted. In fact, some say the Queen Mary is one of the most haunted places in the United States, with as many as 150 known spirits lurking on the ship. Over the past 60 years, the Queen Mary has been the site of numerous reported deaths. At least 49 crew and passengers are known to have died during the Queen Mary's service as a luxury liner. Although many hauntings are reported as the ghosts of drowning victims, the ship's logs do not record any instances of passengers drowning. It is unknown how many service Army men died aboard the Queen Mary during her time as a troop transport ship in World War II. These records are housed by the United States military, and have not been released to the public. John Smith was a marine engineer on board the Queen Mary when she was converted into a hotel. He claims to have heard something unusual in the ship's bow area where there should only have been silence. He has described the sound of metal tearing, water rushing, and men screaming as if there had been a rupture of the ship's hull. He investigated, but could find nothing that would have caused the noises. Years later, he read about a tragedy from World War II. After being converted into a troop ship, the Queen Mary accidentally collided with a British cruiser named the Curacoa, and over 300 men were killed. The Queen Mary's bow sliced the Curacoa in half. John believed what he had heard on the bow area of the ship was an echo of that disaster. Similar reports of sounds coming from the bow area of the ship have been reported over the years. Each person claims to have experienced the same sequence of the sounds: bending metal followed by the rush of water, and the cries of drowning men. Located 50 feet below water level is the Queen Mary's engine room. Used in the filming of the Poseidon Adventure, this room is said to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. The room's infamous Door 13 crushed at least 2 men to death, at different points during the ship's history. The most recent death, during a routine watertight door drill in 1966, crushed an 18-year-old crew member. Dressed in blue coveralls, and sporting a beard. This person is one of the most famous ghosts of the Queen Mary, and is believed to be that of John Petter, a fireman in the engine room who was crushed by the infamous Door 13, in the part of the ship known as Shaft Alley. During emergencies, the watertight doors would be closed to seal off sections of the ship to avoid sinking. The legend goes that the crew members would hop back and forth through the doorways as many times as they could before the door would close. John Petter apparently tried one too many times, and was crushed by the closing door. A man seen wearing blue overalls, sometimes described as having a beard, has been seen walking down Shaft Alley and disappearing at door 13. Nancy Ann, who formerly worked as the lead guide aboard the Queen Mary in Long Beach, recalls an experience she had with Petter's ghost on the TV show, Unsolved Mysteries. I was working in the capacity of lead guide, which meant my job was to close down the tour route, and make sure that there weren't any stragglers behind. And I don't know why I turned around, but I turned around, and standing right behind me on the step was a man. He had on blue overalls, and they were dirty. When I stepped aside to let him go by, he was gone. He wasn't there. I don't necessarily believe any other ghost stories that other people have come up with. I only know what I saw, and I only believe what I saw with my own eyes. In the first-class swimming pool, which has been closed for more than 3 decades, women have often been seen appearing in 1930s-style swimming suits wandering the decks near the pool. Others have reported the sounds of splashing, and witness wet footprints leading from the deck to the changing rooms. Some have also spied the witness of a young girl clutching her teddy bear. In the second-class pool room, the spirit of another little girl, named Jackie, is often been seen and heard. The unfortunate girl drowned in the pool during the ship's sailing days. The sound of her voice, as well as the sounds of laughter, has been captured here. Unsolved Mysteries interviewed maintenance supervisor Kathy Love, who described the following incident in the pool area, which was also witnessed by a co-worker. We came into the pool, and I heard giggling. The sound of a little girl playing in the area. And at that point, I noticed there was splashing. The splashing stopped, the giggling continued, and we observed the wet footprints of a small child walking across into the locker room. I know that I saw what I saw. I'm not sure exactly why I saw it. But I know it was there. Lead guide Nancy Ann shared this experience with Unsolved Mysteries. One day I was standing on the stairs of the pool, and out of the corner of my right eye, I saw a woman, probably in her 60s or 70s, in black and white. So I went down the stairs, and around the pillar, expecting to find her standing there, and she wasn't anywhere to be found. It was only a matter of seconds. She couldn't have gone anywhere. The changing rooms are located in an area off the balcony which overlooks the first-class swimming pool. It is in this area that a murder of a young woman named Sarah allegedly happened. Sarah was in the changing rooms when she was attacked and killed. There have been numerous reports of odd happenings in this area of the ship. Moving shadows have been reported in this area. There have also been reports of sobbing, possibly that of the murdered Sarah. Some paranormal investigators claim the changing rooms are the location for a vortex, or portal, which spirits use to travel to the ship. Cabin B340 is the alleged location of another vicious murder aboard the Queen Mary. The story tells of a reported visitor that slipped a steward some cash in exchange for finding a willing female passenger to keep him company for the night. After stowing his luggage, a female companion was found, and they retired for the night. In the morning the man was missing from the dining hall, so the steward went to go find him. What they found instead was the murdered corpse of the female companion. They could not locate the male guest, his registration information for that room nor his luggage, which people swore was checked and stowed. He had simply vanished. The ghost of this room does not like guests, and has been known to get so upset by the presence of guests that she tells them to get out. Other guests who stayed in the room were awakened in the middle of the night by lights turning on and off, water being turned on and off, and the covers being pulled off the bed as the guests slept. These paranormal activities has caused this room to be sealed off from the public. There are many other parts of the Queen Mary that are said to be haunted. One waitress at the Chelsea restaurant states that she had been working the host podium, and saw 3 guests walk towards her through the long hallway that leads from the deck to the restaurant. She looked down at the reservation book for a party of 3, but when she looked back up, there were only 2 people. She asked the guests whether or not they prefer to wait for their 3rd member before being seated, but they said that there were only 2 of them. She also reported that the faucets in the nearby woman's bathroom go on and off by themselves. A translucent woman dressed in 1930s attire has been seen on the promenade deck near the passenger information booth. Server Carol Lydon, who was interviewed for the Unsolved Mysteries episode, recounted an encounter with a mysterious woman she saw. I'd been here about 14 years when I first had the first experience of actually seeing what I thought to be a ghost. I was in the work area, and for some reason I picked up a cup of coffee, went out to the tables, and there was a lady sitting there. I was so fascinated by her dress. She appeared to be in a late afternoon cocktail-type dress from the 40s. She had dark hair, rolled at the sides, no makeup on. She seemed to be very pale, but I never saw her move. I left the table, went up about 10 feet, turned around because I wanted to take another look, and there was nothing there. Yet more odd occurrences have been made in a number of first-class staterooms. Here, reports have been made of a tall dark-haired man appearing in a 1930s-style suit, as well as water running, and lights turning on in the middle of the night, and phones ringing in the early morning hours with no one on the other end of the line. In the third-class children's playroom, a baby's cry has often been heard, which is thought to be an infant boy who died shortly after his birth. Other phenomenon occurring throughout the ship are the sounds of distinct knocks, doors slamming, and high-pitched squeals, drastic temperature changes, and the aromas of smells long past. These supposed haunting has been featured in the marketing and promotion of the ship, with various attractions and tourists presenting the theme for visitors during Halloween. Today, the Queen Mary, listed on the National Register of Historic Places, provides not only a wide range of guest rooms for travelers, but also 14 Art Deco salons, tours, restaurants, shops, and exhibits,